Hey, wide awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories.
I always told myself I'd avoid first dates where the guy suggests meeting at his workplace. It sounds like the start of a documentary people would watch and say she should have known. But this guy, his name was Daniel, made it sound normal. He said his office had a lounge, free drinks, amazing city views. I thought he was just trying to impress me with his job, and it actually worked. He seemed so normal on Tinder. We had been talking for a week, and he wasn't weird or silent or too much. He looked like someone you'd trust to explain taxes to you. I got there around 7 p.m. The building was tall, all glass outside with spinning doors and a security guard on the front desk. The lobby lights reflected like gold on the marble floor. I felt underdressed in trainers and a jacket, but Daniel came down and told the guard I was with him. He scanned a card and we took the lift up. He looked even better in person. Black shirt, rolled up sleeves. Hair neat like he just left a barber. A calm voice that made me feel like he planned everything out in his head before saying it. I remember thinking maybe this date would finally be one of those boring success stories, like how people meet the love of their life on Tinder. I wish that was what happened. The lift opened into a hallway that was way too quiet. No noise. No one else walking around. Just us and the buzz of lights that sounded fake. He said most people already went home since it was late and that we had the place to ourselves. He scanned a card on a door and the lock clicked. Inside was a break area with couches and a mini fridge and a view of the whole city. It honestly looked cool. I sat down on the sofa and he made us drinks like he'd done that before. He kept asking about me. What school I went to, what I wanted to do in life, who I lived with if I had siblings, even what time I usually go to bed. He laughed a lot when I joked and his eyes never left my face. It wasn't creepy at first, just felt like he was actually paying attention, unlike most guys. But then his attention got too locked in, like he kept trying to memorize me. I looked around the room while he went to grab something from his desk nearby. There was this long hallway connected to the break room. The end of it had a door with a metal latch, a heavy one. The door looked different than the others, old, scratched, and out of place in a shiny office. Then I heard it. Thumping, like someone kicking from the other side. Then another hit. Then what sounded like someone dragging something hard against the floor. I froze and stared. He didn't react at all, like he didn't hear it. But the sound was real. Loud enough that I knew it wasn't just the building making noises. He came back holding snacks and saw me staring down the hallway. I didn't say anything, but he smiled really fast and walked in front of me to block the view. He started talking again like he wanted to distract me. His smile looked tight now, stretched like he was forcing his face to behave. I pretended to listen while those sounds continued behind him, softer now but still there. I tried to joke about the door like, haha, do you have zombies locked up in there? I wanted him to say it was storage or a server room or something normal. He didn't answer. He just stared at me with a look like I shouldn't have asked. He put the drinks down and told me to stay here for a minute. He needed to make a phone call. I nodded even though every part of me wanted to run out. He walked into another room and left the door slightly open. I could hear his voice, but he was whispering. I couldn't hear who he was talking to. Then the banging came again, this time followed by a voice. A person's voice. I don't know what they were saying, but they sounded terrified. I couldn't pretend anymore. That door looked like it was stopping something real from getting out. I stood up slowly and walked to the hallway. The air was colder there like the room itself didn't want anyone near the end of it. I got halfway down before the noise stopped completely. I stared at the metal door. I could feel someone behind it. Breathing. Waiting. I whispered hello without even thinking. Nothing. Then one soft knock on the other side hit back. One. Slow, like it was a signal. My heart refused to stay calm. I turned around to go back to the sofa, and suddenly the lift dinged. Loud. The doors opened. Police officers stepped out. 2 of them. They didn't even look confused. They walked straight toward me and asked where he was. I pointed at the room and they rushed past. Then everything happened so fast it felt like a film. Daniel walked out with his phone still in his hand, and when he saw the police he tried to stay calm, but his face dropped. They told him to stay where he was, and he tried to say something, but one of them already had cuffs out. He kept repeating that it was nothing, and it wasn't like they thought, as she wasn't like the others. That last sentence hit me like a punch. I didn't move. I didn't even have words. I couldn't understand what I'd nearly walked into. The officers pushed past him toward the metal door. They unlocked it with a key they found on his desk. When the door opened, I thought I'd be sick. There were two girls inside. Dirty clothes. Blank faces. They both had long brown hair with bangs, just like me. One of them stared at me so hard like she was trying to warn me. I looked away because I couldn't handle her eyes. The police helped them out and called for backup. Everything turned loud and chaotic. Radios running footsteps, voices yelling commands. More officers came up the lift. They took Daniel away, and he kept staring right at me the whole time, like he thought I understood him. Like he thought I was supposed to join those girls behind that locked door. One officer asked me if I was okay and if I needed medical attention. I told her I had just arrived and I had no clue what was going on. She nodded, but the look on her face said she'd seen this kind of thing before. They told me he had been reported by someone online, that he was matching girls who looked like his ex-girlfriend and convincing them to come to this building. Then they disappeared, all with the same haircut, the same bangs, just like mine. I sat on the floor because my legs stopped working, right where the city view behind me made everything look peaceful and nice. All I could think about was how close I was to being number 3. How if the police came 10 minutes later, I probably would have been locked behind that door too. I left the building once they let me go and blocked his profile before I even stepped outside. The cold air hit me and the street looked different, like danger could hide anywhere, and smiling photos on Tinder meant nothing. I didn't tell my friends the full story. I didn't want anyone to look at me like a victim or like someone who almost got trapped. But I also deleted Tinder that night, and I don't think I'll ever download it again. I always thought matching the same type of girl over and over again on Tinder was just the algorithm knowing what I like. Blonde hair, bright smile, those kind of eyes that make you feel like she's staring right into your skull. I never thought much of it until this one girl showed up and made everything feel like a glitch in real life. It started on a boring Tuesday night. I was on the sofa scrolling through Tinder like usual. I matched this girl named Lily. She seemed cool. We talked a bit, planned maybe grabbing a drink later in the week. Then the next day I matched another girl named Stowe, same vibe, but a different hairstyle. The day after that, I matched a girl called Emma. 3 different profiles. Same kind of look. But that's not weird, right? Lots of girls had that Instagram look. Except it nagged at me. Something about their smiles looked copy and pasted. Like that exact same amount of teeth showing, that exact tilt of their head. I told myself I was overthinking it and kept it moving. Then came Aria. She didn't just match that look. It was exactly the same. Like perfect twins cloned out of some picture. Same background blur in every photo. Same way she put her hand near her chin like she was posing for the same photographer. I stared at her photos longer than I should have and convinced myself she was the real one out of all of them because she actually wanted to meet up the same night. We planned to meet outside a quiet bowling alley about 15 minutes from where I live. It wasn't busy at all. The parking lot was half empty, and the place felt like it was stuck in a different year. The neon sign flickered like it was struggling to stay on. I got there early and waited near the entrance, leaning on the rail. I wasn't even nervous, just curious to see what she'd look like moving around instead of just being pixels on my phone. She arrived walking fast, like she'd rehearsed the timing of every step. She smiled as soon as she saw me, and I swear the air got colder. Not in a dramatic way, but something subtle inside of me just tightened. Because that smile wasn't just familiar. It was identical. It was the exact smile Lily had in her profile pic, and the exact smile Zoe had, and Emma too. She said my name like she'd said it 100 times before. Same tone. Same voice I heard through the voice note Lily sent me 2 nights ago. I tried to brush it off and told myself girls can look alike. Lots of people sound similar too. Nothing insane. We walked inside and got Elaine. She didn't talk much about herself. Every time I asked something normal like what she studied or where she grew up, she changed the subject and asked about me instead. And she listened in this weird way, eyes wide and focused like she was downloading everything I said into a hard drive. Every time she looked away, I lifted my phone and scrolled up through her photos again. That bothered me, that I needed to check again and again if I was imagining things. but it didn't go away. The more I stared at her in real life, the more my brain screamed that I'd already seen her 3 times this week. Same face, same voice, same vibe, same smile. I tried to play it cool, but my chest felt tight. She bowled like she'd never done it before. She kept throwing the ball too slow, letting it drift into the gutter. But after every turn, she'd look back at me and smile like she was proud of the fail, like she wanted to see if I'd react differently. At one point, she looked right at me after a throw and just said that those other profiles were beta versions. Just like that. Casual, like she was talking about some app feature. Like those 3 girls weren't actually real people but test models. I stood there confused, and she just kept smiling like she expected me to understand what she meant without asking questions. I didn't want to freak out, so I tried laughing it off while my phone was already buzzing in my pocket. When she went to the bathroom, I checked my phone. I had new messages from Lily, and from Zoe, and from Emma. All 3. All sent at the exact same minute. All saying the same thing word for word, asking if we could meet tomorrow instead. I swear the letters looked like they were staring at me. It didn't feel like messages sent by 3 different people. It felt like code running in parallel. I glanced toward the bathroom door. She didn't come out. No sound. Nothing. I waited longer, and this thought hit me that maybe she wasn't in there at all. Maybe she'd slipped out or walked somewhere else, or maybe she was waiting like she wanted me to go look for her. I grabbed my coat and left the bowling alley without even tying my shoes properly. I didn't run, but I moved fast enough to look suspicious. I kept glancing behind me like she might appear out of nowhere or duplicate into 3 at once. I got to my car, slammed the door, and locked it. My heart was going insane, and the radio turned on by itself. I turned it off. It turned back on. The same second. Static noise blasted like a broken robot trying to speak. Then the music changed to a voice note. My name. Said in that same exact voice, repeating it like she was testing the output of a voice generator. I held my phone and every app crashed to the home screen. Tinder opened on its own. My matches page refreshed. The screen filled with row after row of the exact same girl in different clothes, different hairstyles, but the same smile. Some had masks, some had glasses, some were holding pets, but it was her in every single picture. Aria, Lily, Zoe, Emma, dozens more, all clones. I shut off my phone completely and drove home, barely noticing anything outside the headlights. When I got inside my place, I went straight to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. My phone powered itself back on. The screen lit up the room like a warning sign. A new message. From Aria. Just 1 sentence. Final version unlocked. See you soon. I stared at the screen while my front door clicked behind me. Not slammed. Not forced. A slow, confident lock turning. And that smile formed in my mind like it was imprinted there forever. I'm honestly done with dating apps after this. I used to think the worst thing that could happen on a date was awkward silence or someone lying about their height. I would take that any day over what happened. I still gag when I think about his voice in my ear talking about parts of me I never wanted anyone to describe like that. So his name on Tinder was Elias. His photos were normal. Outdoorsy type, tall, wavy hair, strong jawline. We matched and he messaged first. He was actually decent at chatting. Not dry, not creepy, just plain. I think that's what tricked me. No red flags at first. He suggested we meet for dinner at a restaurant by the river. Public, busy, bright lights. I thought, okay, perfect. I got there early and found the table number he told me. The place smelled amazing and all I could think was how hungry I was. When he walked in, I recognized him instantly. He looked exactly like his photos, but something about him felt too still. Like his shoulders never moved when he breathed. He smiled, but didn't show teeth. He sat down across from me and just stared for a bit. No hello, no small talk. I laughed nervously and tried to start a conversation, but he kept watching my neck like he was tracking my pulse. The waitress came and I ordered pasta. He didn't even look at the menu. He said he wasn't hungry. No drink either. Not even water. The waitress asked twice just in case, and he politely declined both times without blinking. When the food arrived, he leaned forward and watched me cut the pasta. I picked up the first bite, and right when I put it in my mouth, he spoke for the first time. Not loud, just a whisper only I could hear. He said eating carbs before midnight makes the texture of the liver soft. That mine would be delicate because it's used to digesting food like this. He said the oils would give it a buttery finish. I almost choked. I actually thought I misheard him. I put my fork down and asked if he was joking. He said no. Then he continued talking like he was reviewing a meal. Except the meal was my organs. He said my heart would have a slight sweetness because I looked like someone who ate fruit daily. He stared at my chest like he could see the heartbeat through my clothes. I tried to laugh again like maybe he was into weird dark humor. But he kept going, describing things I didn't even know about myself. He said my kidneys must be strong because I looked hydrated. He said that would give them a clean taste. He pointed at my hands and said the way I held the fork showed good calcium levels, so my bones would be crunchy. Crunchy. He actually said crunchy. I didn't take another bite. I pushed my plate away. He leaned back and smiled wider than before. Where the lights flickered overhead, his eyes locked onto my throat again. He whispered that the pasta sauce would leave a slight tang in the blood vessels. He said he liked that. He said it was perfect. The place was packed, but it felt like everyone else faded out. Just me, him, and his voice describing how he would enjoy every part of me. I told him I wasn't hungry anymore. He nodded slowly like he expected that. He said it didn't matter if I ate here. He would find out what everything tasted like eventually. I stood up fast, pretending I needed the toilet. My legs felt numb, but I walked to the back where the bathrooms were. I didn't actually go in. I waited and peeked back to see if he was leaving or staring. He hadn't moved, but his head was turned slightly toward the hallway, like he knew exactly where I was. I texted my friend and said, "Call me now." I walked back, planning to pretend it was some emergency and leave. Before I even opened my mouth, he started listing everything I'd eaten in the past week. He listed every takeaway, every snack, even the smoothie I had that morning. I asked how he knew. He said he could taste it on my breath and see it in my skin. My phone rang and I grabbed it instantly. I didn't explain anything. I just said I had to go and moved toward the door. He stood up, but he didn't chase. He said one last thing. He told me to be careful walking home because sometimes shock makes the heart pump weakly, and he didn't want the flavor to fade too much before he got to it. I nearly fell over getting out of there. When I made it to the main road, I kept looking behind me. No sign of him. No footsteps. Nothing. I got home and locked every door in the flat. I sat on the sofa breathing like I'd run a marathon. My phone pinged. Unknown number. I opened it and my stomach dropped to the floor. It was a photo of me sitting at that restaurant table, taken from behind him. My head tilted down, the fork near my mouth. And below it, a message. He said he already knew where I live. He said no matter how I changed my diet now, he already knew how everything tasted. I blocked the number, deleted Tinder, called my friend and asked to sleep over. But lying in her living room on the sofa, I kept thinking of his eyes locked onto me like I was dinner and he'd been starving for years. A few days later, I went to throw away the leftovers in my fridge. The containers were all open, empty, and inside one of them, carved into the plastic, were tiny words scratched with something sharp. Just one line. "Thank you for the snack." Sometimes I think I hear footsteps outside my door late at night. And every time I eat anything now, it makes me wonder if I'm seasoning myself for him. I haven't been back to that restaurant since, but I know he's still out there somewhere, waiting for the perfect taste.
Hey guys, really sorry to interrupt. If you're still listening, then you're enjoying the story so far. And if you are enjoying, then please hit that like button. That's all I ask of you. Thanks so much. Now back to the stories.
If anyone asks why I still use dating apps, I honestly don't even know anymore. It's like gambling. Every time you swipe, you hope you'll get someone normal. This time I lost bad. The worst part is I can't forget her eyes. I see them every time I blink. Her name on Tinder was Alina. She looked incredible in her pictures, but not in that fake influencer way. She had this dark hair falling over her shoulders, pale skin, and the biggest eyes I'd ever seen. We matched and she replied instantly. She typed really weird though. No emojis. No jokes. No voice notes. Just direct answers like she was copying from a script. But I thought whatever, maybe she's just shy. We agreed to meet at this small cafe near the canal. I reached first and waited outside. When she arrived, She walked like she didn't even feel the cold. Everyone else had coats zipped up to their chins, but she had this thin dress on, shoulders out, like she just stepped off a movie set. She smiled when she saw me. Her eyes were huge and shiny, so shiny the street lights bounced right off them. I noticed her pupils instantly. They were big like she was in a dark room, except we were standing under bright lights. They didn't shrink, not even a bit. We went inside and sat by the window because I wanted as much light as possible. Something about her made my heart punch weirdly fast. At first, I blamed nerves. I mean, she was stunning. She talked slowly, staring straight at me the whole time. Not breaking eye contact once, like she was studying how I breathed. The brightness in the cafe changed every time someone opened the door. Light rushed in, and then the place got dim again. Normal eyes adjust. Hers didn't. Her pupils stayed wide open like bottomless circles. The whites around them looked stretched. She never squinted. I rubbed my own eyes thinking maybe I was imagining it. We ordered drinks, and while we talked, she kept asking about fears. "Do you get scared of drowning?" she asked. "Do you think about dying alone?" Stuff no one says on a first date. I joked a bit, but she didn't laugh. She leaned closer like every answer mattered to her. I tried to focus on something else, so I looked outside. Not many people were around. A couple cars. Some cyclists. Normal night. When I turned back, she was even closer. I could see every detail of her eyes. There weren't any reflections from the cafe lights. Instead, I saw one reflection that didn't look right. It was me, but not me breathing and moving. It was like a frozen version. Eyes closed. Head tilted. Dead. I blinked and pulled back. Maybe it was just the angle. The anxiety in my chest felt like a rope tightening. I looked again by accident when she spoke, and there it was again. My reflection on her eyeballs. Except my skin looked gray, like I'd been gone for hours. She kept talking about how some people are born with destiny already written. She said some eyes can see the end of someone before it arrives. I thought she meant astrology stuff, but she stared right into me when she said it, like she was talking about me specifically. I told myself not to freak out. I forced a smile and asked normal date questions, but she barely answered. Her head tilted side to side like she was listening to something far away. Then, out of nowhere, the lights flickered in the cafe. Not just once. Repeatedly. And every time they flashed, her eyes stayed wide open. If my pupils were that big with bright light hitting them, I'd be blind spots everywhere. But she didn't even react. My instincts screamed to leave. I said my stomach hurt and I needed the bathroom. She didn't blink. Just sat there, staring at me like she already knew what I was planning. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face. I stared at myself in the mirror and kept seeing that dead version of me from her eyes. I told myself I was just panicking, that maybe the reflections were from my imagination or the angle, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I messaged my friend to call me in 2 minutes with an excuse. I walked out of the bathroom ready to say goodbye and leave, but she wasn't at the table anymore. The cup was still there, her bag still on the chair, but she was gone. I looked around, no sign of her. I checked outside through the window, still nothing. I thought maybe she went to the bathroom too, but then the lights flashed again, and she was suddenly right behind me. No footsteps, no warning, just there. She whispered right next to my ear that I looked different in her eyes now. She said the dead version was getting closer. I didn't answer. I just walked toward the exit, trying not to sprint. As I pushed the door open, she said something that froze me. She said she was glad she met me before the accident. The word accident hit my brain like a punch. I turned back to ask what she meant, but she tilted her head and stared like she was watching something happen behind me. I left anyway, ran almost the whole way home. When I got inside, I locked every door and window. I told myself I'd block her in the morning, delete the app, move on. That night I woke up because I thought someone was in my room. I checked every corner with my phone light. Nothing. But when I opened my gallery by accident, there were 4 new photos. Pictures of me sleeping, taken from right next to my bed. The flash had reflected in my eyes. And in my eyes, I swear, I wasn't alive in those photos. I blocked her, deleted the app, told myself I was safe. But sometimes when I catch our reflection in a window or a spoon or anything shiny, I don't look alive. I look like the version I saw in her eyes. Still, cold, finished. I don't know where she came from or what she is, but I know she saw something. And whatever she saw is coming. I can feel it like a countdown no one else hears. I used to joke that if a guy was too obsessed on the first date, at least it would make a good story later. I'm not joking anymore. This isn't one of those funny, cute things you tell your friends while ordering food. This is the kind of thing that stays in your head even when you're trying to sleep, and you keep asking yourself if there's some tiny chance he was telling the truth. That's the part that messes with me the most. So I matched with this guy called Nathan. Normal enough pictures, chill vibe, like dogs, gym, whatever. We talked for 2 days and he asked to meet at this cafe near the train station. Public place, lots of people around, so I thought, yeah, why not? I even told my friend where I was going just in case. The day of the date, I got there early and grabbed a drink so I wasn't awkwardly standing around. He walked in, waved, came straight to me like we already knew each other for years. He sat down fast and smiled too wide and said I looked beautiful. Okay, cool, compliments are normal. But then he called me a name. Not my name. He said something like, "You look even better than the last time, Lily." I laughed and corrected him. I told him my actual name. He stared right at me and said, "Stop joking." He actually looked annoyed. I thought maybe he misheard me on the app or something, but he kept doing it. Over and over calling me Lily like that was my actual name. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling like he needed to show me proof. He turned the phone and there were pictures. I'm not lying when I say the woman in the photos looked exactly like me. Not a little similar. Exactly like me. Same hair, same face, same smile, but it wasn't me. And she was wearing some bride dress with him next to her in a suit. They were in some garden with flowers everywhere and people in the background. He said we got married there and I promised we'd start over fresh. I froze. For a minute, I actually questioned myself. Like, did I get hit in the head at some point and forgot a whole wedding? But then I noticed something. The tattoo on her wrist wasn't mine. She had this red line tattoo. I have none. And the way she smiled, I never smile that wide. Even though it was my face, it felt like someone imitating me. I told him flat out that wasn't me. His smile dropped. He leaned closer and whispered like he didn't want anyone else to hear that I needed to stop pretending. He said that disappearing didn't erase what we had. I tried to lighten the mood and said he matched with someone who looks like me. But he got more annoyed and shook his head and said no. He said he spent months searching for me and I always do this. He said every time things get serious, I run off and change my name. My drink suddenly tasted disgusting. I looked around the cafe to see if anyone noticed how intense he was, but everyone else was just living their lives. He put his hand slowly on mine. Too slow, like he was scared I'd vanish if he rushed. He asked what lies I told my new friends and where I told people I live. I tried to move my hand away, and he held on just long enough to show he could grab me if he wanted. He started unlocking his phone again, showing me voice memos of someone crying and laughing on a beach. It sounded like me. Same voice, but she called him her everything and kept saying his name like she was obsessed. The more I listened, the more I felt sick. He said we were together for 3 years until the night I left. He said I read the messages telling him goodbye, but I blocked him everywhere. That part hit weird because I've blocked people before. What if he found some old account of mine and convinced himself we were together? My heart beat so hard I thought someone could hear it. He asked if I remembered Paris. I've never even been outside the UK. He asked if I remembered the house we wanted to get, the one next to a school so our future kids didn't have to walk far. He said he still had the keys. I told him again I wasn't Lily. He looked like he was about to cry, but then he smiled again. A small, quiet smile like he just understood something. He told me I didn't have to say it out loud, that he knew why I pretended. He said someone must be forcing me to hide, that I was in danger. He said he'd protect me like he promised. He said once we go back home, I'd remember everything. Home. He meant going home with him, with a stranger who thought I was his missing wife. He stood up and told me to come with him. Like he wasn't asking, he was telling. I stayed sitting and said I had to go to the toilet first. One thing about me, I always find a way out when something goes wrong. I left my drink and went to the bathroom, but I didn't stop. I walked straight through to the other side where the exit was. I walked so fast my shoes almost slipped on the floor. I got outside and ran down the street. I didn't even look behind me. I thought he would chase me, but he didn't. I didn't see him anywhere. I didn't stop running until I reached the station and I jumped on the first train without checking where it went. My hands were shaking the whole way. When I got home, I blocked his number, but then realized he never actually gave me one. I checked Tinder and his profile wasn't there anymore. Like he didn't exist. Then I opened my camera by accident and saw my own face staring back at me. I looked exactly like the woman in those pictures. I turned my phone off and threw it on my bed. Later that night, there was a knock on my door. Not loud. Just one knock. I looked outside the window but couldn't see anyone. My phone buzzed. No number. Just a picture. It was me at the cafe chair earlier with him standing behind me like he never left the table. He wrote just one line. He said he'd find me again when I stopped lying. I don't know if he mistook me for someone else or if there's actually someone out there with my same face who married that man. I blocked that message too. But some nights my phone lights up at 3 in the morning. No caller ID. No message. Just a screen turning on like someone wants me to know they're waiting. I think the dumbest thing I ever did was showing up at a stranger's flat just because she had a good profile picture and liked the same shows as me. I always used to laugh at people who ended up in crazy dating stories, and I became one. It started like any normal match. She was called Mia. Her pictures looked chilled, like someone who reads, goes gym, spends weekends watching movies. Her bio said she was into horror films and takeaway nights. I messaged her and she replied fast. She asked to meet at hers because she didn't want to go outside in the cold. I know how that sounds. I should have just said no. But I told myself people do that all the time and they're fine. The building looked normal enough, not like some creepy rundown place, just a block in the middle of a quiet street. I didn't even think before going in. I just buzzed. She opened the door and I walked straight up. The hallways were weirdly silent. No dogs barking, no kids yelling, just my footsteps echoing. Her door had this random sticker of a cartoon cat on it, which looked kinda childish, but whatever. She opened the door and smiled with all her teeth. She looked like her pictures, but with something a bit off in her eyes, like she was looking at me and through me at the same time. The first thing I noticed inside wasn't her. It was that giant thing in the living room. Like a massive metal cage, taller than me, taking up half the room. It was covered with a sheet, hanging down like someone tried to hide an elephant. The bars poked through in places, so it was obvious what it was. I laughed a bit and said something dumb like, "Wow, are you planning to keep a dinosaur or something?" She didn't laugh. She just stared at me and then said it's just the last guy who lied to me. Then she laughed. No blink, no smile lines. Just laughing with her eyes open like she didn't even breathe. I tried to make it a joke in my head, like she was just being dark humor funny, but she didn't touch the sheet or show me it was empty. She just walked to the kitchen and said to make myself comfortable. I sat on the sofa but kept glancing at the cage. I swear I heard something move inside. Not like a loud sound, just this tiny shift, like someone breathing in there. The room itself was bare. No pictures on the walls, no comfy stuff like cushions. Just that cage, a sofa, a TV that wasn't on, and the smell of something metallic, like when you taste blood after biting your lip. She came back holding these cheap drinks in plastic cups and sat uncomfortably close next to me. I could feel her eyes stuck on me like she was studying every breath I took. She kept asking about past dates. Not like normal questions, but stuff like, did they ever lie to you? Did you ever lie to them? Have you ever told someone you'd call and then disappeared? I tried to play it cool and not act weird, but my heart was punching my chest. Every time I answered, she would stare for a long second like she was deciding if I told the truth. Then she'd smile in this twitchy way. I told myself I needed to chill, but then she looked at the cage again. Not for long, just a glance. But that one glance made me fully alert, like she was checking if something or someone was still there. Then her phone buzzed. She looked down and I just saw a name on her lock screen. It was another guy's name with a heart next to it. She turned the phone over real slow. I didn't say anything. But inside my head things started making sense in the worst way. She kept me talking and drinking, but barely drank herself. She asked where I live, if my parents waited up for me, if anyone tracked me when I go out. She asked if I told anyone where I was going tonight. I lied and said, yeah, my friends knew exactly where I was. She didn't react, but I knew she clocked I lied. That sheet over the cage moved again. Just a slight push on the fabric, like someone pressed their hand up from inside. I froze. She didn't look at it this time. She just looked at me. She leaned forward and her voice dropped quieter. She said she hates liars more than anything. I wanted to leave right then, but the front door was behind her, and that covered cage was between me and her in the room. My plan turned into one thought: leave without flipping out too obviously. I said I needed the toilet. I don't know why, but I thought maybe to find a window or something. She pointed down the hallway. I walked off trying to act normal, but the second I stepped into the hall, she turned the TV on loud. Not music. Non-show. Just static. White noise filling the flat. My whole skin went hot. In the bathroom, there was nothing sharp or helpful. The window was tiny. Even a cat would struggle to fit through. I looked in the mirror and my face was pale like I'd been sick. I knew if I stayed, I would end up in that cage. I walked back, but tried to act casual like I was still chill. She stood right next to the sofa now, blocking the path a bit. And the sheet over the cage. Something pushed it harder this time. A loud metal clang sounded like a hand grabbing bars. She didn't even turn around to check it. That scared me more than anything. I said I actually had to go home early because of a morning shift. She stared with dead eyes like she was scanning my soul for lies. My chest hurt from holding my breath. I told her I'd text her when I got home. She smiled too wide and slowly stepped aside. I walked to the door, not running, just steady. I opened it and stepped out. She didn't try to stop me. But right as I closed the door, she said, still laughing, better not lie. I walked down those stairs without looking back once. When I got outside, I didn't wait for anything. I just walked fast, nearly running once the corner turned. I didn't look at my phone until I got home. There was a message from her. It said, "Don't forget your promise." And then beneath that, a picture. The picture was the inside of that cage. There was a guy sitting in the corner, bruised face, eyes wide open, staring at the camera. The flash reflected off his eyes like he was begging. I unmatched, blocked, deleted the app. I still don't know if the guy in the picture was alive or not. I didn't call the police because I thought they'd think I was trolling or something. And I'm scared she'd find out I told anyone. Sometimes at night, I imagine I can hear that metal cage sound in my room, like he's still hitting the bars trying to get someone to open it. And I wonder if she ever found a new liar. Dating apps always make things feel rushed. One minute you're strangers, the next you're meeting like you already trust each other. I told myself I'd be more careful, but then I matched with this guy named Cameron. He looked charming in the most basic way possible. Nice hair, soft smile, nothing threatening. He messaged me with jokes that actually made me laugh. He didn't push anything weird. He asked if I wanted to meet at the park near the river and walk around. Public place. People everywhere. Sounded fine. I got there first and stood by the path pretending to scroll my phone. When he showed up, he waved with this easy grin like we'd known each other forever. He wore this long dark green jacket that looked too big for him, padded and bulky like something a hunter would wear. He took it off right away, complaining he gets warm too fast. I noticed he held it carefully with both hands like it weighed more than a jacket should. We started walking and talking. He was even more charming in person. He talked about his favorite shows, his dog back home, his hobby of building random stuff out of wood. Everything sounded normal. He kept the jacket cradled against his chest like he was hugging it. I made a joke asking if he loved that jacket more than his dog, and he laughed but didn't let go of it. We found a bench overlooking the river and sat down. He placed the jacket next to him, but kept one hand resting on it lightly. Every time someone walked by, he pulled it closer. Like he couldn't let it sit alone for even 1 second. I thought maybe he kept something important in the pocket, like an expensive gadget or something. He noticed me staring at it and smiled shy again. He said he had a pet inside. He said it casually like it was normal. I waited for him to laugh or say he was kidding. He didn't. He said it was unusual but very gentle. Said he rescued it and was still working on helping it adjust to being outside. I tried to ask what kind of pet, and he just said it doesn't have a name yet. My stomach didn't like that answer. A minute later, he asked if I could hold the jacket while he tied his shoe. Before I could think, he placed it into my arms. I swear the weight nearly pulled me forward. I expected soft padding or heavy pockets, but instead I felt something shift, like something alive inside. A squirm slow, but definitely real. I froze, gripping the fabric. He crouched down pretending to fix the shoe, but his eyes kept flicking up at me, watching how I reacted. The jacket twitched again, like whatever was inside was stretching or turning. I forced a laugh and asked if there really was a pet in there or if I was holding a robot hamster or something. He smiled like I passed a test. The jacket moved harder this time, not like an animal adjusting itself, more like something trapped pushing outward. I felt it brush the inside of the fabric near my arm. Fingers. It felt like a hand. I dropped the jacket onto my lap and stood up fast. The weight landed heavy and I took a step back. He stood too, eyes locked on me. He said, "Calm down." He said, "It's just shy." He reached out for the jacket, but I took another step back because my legs weren't listening to my brain anymore. The jacket shifted again, and the zipper slid open a tiny bit from inside. Not from the weight. Someone or something slid it. The opening widened just enough for a glossy eyeball to stare out. A human eye, staring around, blinking, scared or angry or something beyond that, attached to a face I couldn't fully see, hiding in the dark fabric. I screamed without meaning to. People at the park turned toward us. Cameron grabbed the jacket from me faster than anyone should be able to move. He held it tight to his chest again like someone trying to hide a stolen baby. He whispered something to the thing inside. The zipper closed itself like hands pulling it shut. I stumbled backward and told him I needed to go. Now, he shook his head slowly. He said it wasn't time yet. He said the pet wasn't ready for other people. The way he talked wasn't playful anymore. He looked angry that I'd seen too much. I turned to run. He grabbed my wrist hard, but not enough to hurt, just enough to warn me. He said, "Don't rush away." He said I shouldn't make this weird, like I was the one who made anything weird. I tried yanking my arm, but his grip tightened. His jacket squirmed violently, like something inside him wanted out. I yelled help without thinking, and for the first time his eyes widened like he didn't expect me to react like a real person. He loosened his grip just enough for me to rip away and sprint across the path. I didn't look back at first. I just ran toward a group of people sitting on the grass. When I turned for a second, he was still standing there, hugging the jacket close while staring straight at me like I stole his entire future. I reached a security guard near the playground and pointed back toward Cameron. The guard started heading over, but then I noticed Cameron was already moving away fast, blending into the trees with that moving, wriggling bundle against his chest. The guard radioed something, but by the time he reached the bench, Cameron was gone. I gave a terrible description because I could barely breathe. All I could say was that he had a jacket with something alive in it. I didn't tell them about the eye. I couldn't form the words. The guard asked if I wanted to call the police, but I said I just wanted to leave. He walked me to the exit and waited until my taxi came. The whole ride home, I stared at my arms like I might find a fingerprint burned into my skin. I kept replaying the way that eye looked at me. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't some weird prop. It knew I was there. It saw me. It understood something. I deleted Tinder as soon as I shut my door behind me. Then I locked every window and sat on the sofa gripping the pillow like it could protect me. I don't go to parks anymore. And if I ever see someone holding a heavy jacket too carefully, I will run without asking any questions. Because that wasn't a pet. And I don't want to know who or what needed to be zipped inside there or why he thought he could just gift it to me someday as part of our life. I always said I hated people who stay glued to their phone during a date. Like, what's the point of meeting if you're just gonna stare at the screen the whole time? But when I matched with Zoe, she seemed cool enough that I ignored that rule. She texted a lot before we met, sending memes and little voice notes. She asked if I wanted to meet at this bubble tea cafe she liked. Public place, bright lights, easy exit if things got awkward. Perfect. She got there a few minutes after me, wearing this oversized jacket and big headphones around her neck. She smiled and said hi, but her eyes dropped straight to her phone again. She sat across from me and immediately held it up, typing fast like she had to respond to something urgent. I tried to make a joke that she must be super popular, but she just laughed quickly without looking up. We ordered drinks and she held the phone with both hands while I tried to start a normal convo. She'd nod at the right times and even say gas sometimes, but her eyes barely left the screen. I kept thinking maybe she was talking to her best friend about how the date was going. That happens. I tried to ignore it. I leaned forward to ask what kind of bubble tea she liked most, and right then I heard a little ding from her phone, and she smiled at the screen like someone just told her the funniest thing ever. She laughed harder than anything I'd said. That kind of stung. She finally looked up at me for more than a second and said something like, "Sorry, they're just being silly tonight." I asked who. She paused like she said too much and then said, "Just friends watching a show together." I wanted to believe that, but something felt wrong. She asked me a random question about my childhood. I was halfway through answering when she raised the phone directly at me like she was recording. She didn't say she was recording, though. She didn't even react to me staring at her doing it. She just held the phone slightly angled and smiled at the screen. Not at me, the screen. I started getting annoyed and asked if we could put the phone away for at least 5 minutes. She shrugged like it wasn't a big deal and put it face down, but her fingers kept tapping the table like she was itching to look at it again. She bit her lip, eyes bouncing between me and the glowing screen. 20 seconds later, she said she had to use the bathroom and grabbed the phone instantly like she couldn't leave it alone. While she was gone, her phone buzzed. A lot. Then the screen lit up just enough that I could see words sliding up like a chat feed. I didn't want to be nosy, but curiosity pulled my eyes like gravity. I leaned a little closer. The text scrolling wasn't from a normal messaging app. It was a live stream chat. Usernames were flying up nonstop. And then I saw my name. My real name. Someone typed, "Tell him to drink more, he's nervous." Another typed, "Take his phone." And another, "Make him move closer to the window, better lighting." My blood turned cold. I picked up the phone just enough to see the app clearer. The camera view was the cafe table. We sitting there. Every second of the date broadcast to strangers. Thousands of viewers watching, commenting, telling her exactly what to do. She wasn't just distracted by her phone. She was working. I was content. I put the phone back exactly how it was just as she returned. She looked calmer, like she got instructions in there that made her feel powerful. She sat down and, without even trying to hide it, slid the phone into her palm again. She didn't see me staring because she was too focused on whatever comments popped up next. I asked who she kept talking to. She said something vague about her community, like she was some celebrity influencer and I should be honored to be part of the show. She lifted the phone again and pointed it at me like she expected me to smile and wave. I didn't. I told her it wasn't cool to record people without asking. She giggled like I was overreacting. She said everyone likes it. That nobody minds once they see how fun the chat is. She said the viewers already loved me. I said I didn't care what they thought. She rolled her eyes like I was ruining her job. The chat buzzed louder. I couldn't see the screen, but I could tell they were spamming her with something fast. Her expression changed. Excited, she scooted closer and tried to take my hand. I yanked it back before she could. She looked offended like I broke the script. Someone typed something. She nodded a tiny bit like she was listening to a director. Then she said I should take a sip of my drink. Non-suggestion. A command trying to sound casual, I refused. She tried to push the straw toward my face. I backed up and looked around for the waiter or someone to help. Everyone else was living their regular lives. No clue a whole crowd online was deciding what happened at our table. I stood up and said I was done. She blocked my way with a sudden movement that didn't match her tiny frame. She held the phone right between us and said if I left now, that would ruin everything. She whispered that they were waiting for the next part, and I couldn't disappoint them. The phone buzzed, nonstop. Her eyes went wide like she just got the biggest donation ever. She reached behind her like she was going to grab something from her jacket. I didn't want to see what she had planned. I pushed past her and walked fast toward the door. She followed, shouting wait like I owed her another scene. She kept filming me. The chat probably loving every second. I ran out onto the street where people actually existed. She stayed at the door yelling into her phone like the viewers were still instructing her. Her face didn't look upset about me leaving. She looked furious that the content wasn't finished. I kept walking until I turned a corner. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see that glowing screen pointed at me again. My phone buzzed. A notification from Tinder. She unmatched me instantly. Profiled it on, like I was just another episode that didn't perform well. I deleted Tinder the second I got home. Then I covered my own phone camera with tape. I sat there thinking about how easy it is to give someone access to your face, your voice, your reactions. My whole date turned into a game for strangers who didn't care if I was in on it or not. And the scariest part is I don't know if my face is still on some replay out there. If people are still watching me run away, laughing, waiting for me to come back next episode. I thought the weirdest thing that could happen on Tinder was someone lying about their height or showing up looking nothing like their pics. I never imagined anything beyond basic awkwardness. So when I matched with Ethan, I honestly felt kind of lucky. He looked normal. Like actually normal. Clean haircut, nice clothes, regular smile. No creepy filters or gym mirror pics. His messages were polite, and he didn't push anything too fast. He asked if I wanted to come over so he could cook for me, and normally I'd say no to that, but he didn't give off weird vibes at all. He sent an address to an apartment complex not far from where I live. Good area, too. I texted my friend the location like always. He met me at the entrance holding a takeout bag, laughing about how he lied about cooking because he didn't want to mess up a first date by burning the food. It actually made me feel better. At least he wasn't trying to impress me with something fake. His apartment looked clean and new. Nice lighting, nice furniture. No weird mess anywhere. He told me to sit on the couch and make myself comfy while he set up the food on the table. I noticed he kept glancing down the hallway like he was checking if something was still in place. He wasn't nervous exactly, more like excited. I figured maybe he had some surprise planned like candles or a dessert. I sat down and looked around more while he was busy. He had a framed photo of us on the coffee table. Not really us, but two pictures put together like a cheesy collage. My face from my Tinder profile and his from his. I tried to laugh it off like maybe he made it as a joke. He said he thought it looked cute and that he liked seeing us together already. His tone didn't sound like a joke. That's when I started noticing little weird things, like how the apartment seemed. Too empty for how big it was. All the doors down the hallway were closed. Every single one of them. And there were more doors than a normal apartment should have. I tried not to stare too long. Ethan asked if I wanted a tour of the place before we ate. I didn't want to be rude, so I said sure. He walked ahead of me, talking about how he works from home and needed space to set things up for the future. His voice got softer as he opened the first door. I thought maybe it would be a bedroom or a study, but it was neither. Inside that room there were mannequins. Not like store mannequins. These ones were dressed. Every single one. Wearing outfits I owned. Outfits I posted online months ago. Outfits I forgot I ever showed anyone. Every mannequin had a wig too. Long dark hair tied up exactly how I had it in different photos. Sunglasses, hats, accessories. All matching old pictures of me. Some were standing. Some were sitting on chairs like they were waiting their turn to talk. I felt my knees weaken, but I tried my best not to freak out immediately. Maybe I could pretend this was funny and not run out screaming. Ethan looked proud. Not embarrassed. Proud. He said he custom-made each one. He said it took forever to get the skin tone right. He gently fixed one of the wig's hair like it was a real person. I asked why. My voice cracked even though I tried to keep it steady. He said he made them because we had so many memories to catch up on. He said we should have been together ages ago, but I took too long to find him. He smiled at the mannequins like they were versions of me from different chapters of a life we never lived together, but he believed we did. I backed up as slow as possible. I told him the room was interesting, but maybe we should go eat now. He nodded like that was totally normal and said we still had more to see. He opened the next door. The second room was worse. More mannequins, even more detailed. Some were wearing wedding dresses. One had a bouquet. Another was pregnant. Another held a tiny baby doll. Every pose was like some picture-perfect family moment. And every face was mine. Not just a wee this time. He had masks. True masks. Like actual attempts to copy my face structure. He said he printed them from my tagged pics. That line made me want to throw up. I stepped back again and bumped into one mannequin behind me. Its plastic hand brushed my shoulder and I almost screamed. Ethan continued talking like we were planning a vacation. He said this room was his favorite because it represented all the future moments we were going to create. He said he didn't want to forget any of them. He tapped one mannequin's nose like a cute gesture and said this one was me holding our first kid. I turned around and reached for the doorknob, pretending I just wanted to walk back to the living room. But he stood in front of the door faster than I could blink. His expression changed. His voice dropped. He asked why I wanted to leave already when he worked so hard for us. I tried to smile, but my mouth wouldn't move right. I told him I just needed some air. He said I didn't. He said the air in here was perfect for me. He stepped closer. I stepped back right into the mannequins again. Everywhere I moved, there was another version of me staring dead ahead. He kept saying the same line. For every future moment of our life together, like a chant. Like he believed every word was a promise already sealed. He reached for my hand, but I jerked away. He frowned like a disappointed parent. I knew if I screamed he could easily grab me. The apartment was too far from anyone else. I needed an excuse to grab my bag with my phone inside. I said I should check on the food so it didn't get cold. He hesitated for a second, then nodded because he wanted the date to go perfect. When we stepped back into the living room, I reached for my bag quickly and said I needed the bathroom first. He pointed toward another door. I locked myself inside and searched for a window. Too small. I texted my friend one tiny message. Call police. Exact address. I turned off my phone so he wouldn't hear it buzz and unlocked the door slowly. He was right outside, smiling, waiting. Before he spoke, the loudest noise hit the door. Pounding. Shouting. Officers yelling his full name. He backed away like someone had just stabbed him. He screamed that they were ruining our future. Officers forced the door open and dragged him out while he kicked and yelled that I was his. One officer guided me outside. He kept asking if I saw anything threatening. I didn't know how to answer that. What even counts as threatening when someone builds an entire world around a fantasy of you? I looked back once as they pushed him into the police car. His eyes stayed locked on mine the whole time. Not angry, not scared, like he was waiting for me to promise I'd come back. I didn't. I turned away and kept walking until his voice was too far to hear. I deleted Tinder as soon as I got home. I sat on my bed and stared at my closet thinking about how much someone can learn from one picture. One outfit. One stupid post I forgot even made. I used to think mannequins were harmless. Just plastic and cloth. But now I see them and think how easy it is for someone to replace plastic with a real person. When I matched with Lily on Tinder and she said she liked trying new food spots, I figured this was the perfect normal plan. Her pictures showed her smiling with messy hair and big glasses, the kind of girl who looks like she's always laughing. She messaged fast and talked like she wasn't scared of anything. She said she chose the restaurant and told me to meet her inside. I got there first and texted her that I was at a table near the window. I like looking outside while I eat because it calms me. She replied quick saying no window seats. I thought maybe she just didn't like the cold or something. I moved to a booth in the middle. A few minutes later, she walked in, waiting like she already knew everyone. She looked exactly like her photos, but shorter than I pictured. She gave me a quick hug and sat down facing toward the room. Every time I tried to sit across from her where I could see outside, she'd tell me to switch places, like she needed the window behind me. I asked if she hated sitting by windows, and she said she just didn't like people looking in. We ordered food and she talked a lot about random topics. Her favorite childhood shows, her job that she said was boring, the music she liked. She was fun to talk to, but she kept stopping mid-sentence to check behind me. Not like someone was late to join us, but like she was monitoring something. I turned once to see what she kept watching, but she immediately grabbed my hand and told me not to worry about outside. She wasn't smiling when she said that. Her eyes were wide, like she was begging me not to look too much. I shrugged it off and tried to joke about it, but she didn't laugh. She changed the topic fast and asked about my hobbies. I told her I liked taking photos of the city, and she looked at me like she wanted to say something else but swallowed the words. The waiter brought our food, and we started eating. I kept catching her glancing over my shoulder. I asked again why she was doing that, and she said something really quiet. She said someone had found her before. I thought she meant like her ex stalking her or something normal like that. She wouldn't explain more, though. Every time I asked, she'd say she didn't want to ruin the night. She told me to relax and enjoy myself, but how are you supposed to relax when the person you're with looks like she's expecting a monster to burst through the glass? I planned to finish eating and leave. Not in a rude way, I just didn't feel comfortable. Then right when I thought things might finally calm down, she froze. Fork halfway to her mouth, eyes locked on something behind me. I started turning, but she whispered no too fast and too scared. I turned anyway because she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Outside, standing perfectly still by the window, was someone wearing a mask. Not a Halloween mask. A mask that looked exactly like her face. The same eyes, same lips, same shape. Like someone printed her face and stretched it over their own head. The person wasn't doing anything. Just staring inside like they were waiting for us to notice. When I blinked, I swear the mask didn't move at all. It was her face, but empty. Like her features copied without any soul. I asked her what was happening, and she whispered that he always finds her. Always. She said he copies everything. Her looks, her laugh, her movements. She said he used to stand outside her old workplace doing the same thing she did, like a messed up mirror. I didn't understand what she meant until the person outside slowly lifted their hand, and she lifted hers too at the exact same time. Same height, same angle. They stood there perfectly cinched. My heart felt like it dropped into my stomach. I tried to flag down the waiter, but Lily grabbed my arm tight. She said if we reacted too much, he'd follow us home. She said once he knows you're scared, you're marked. Her fingers were shaking hard. I could see sweat on her forehead. People around us were eating like nothing weird was happening. Maybe they thought it was just someone wearing a silly mask outside. Maybe they didn't look long enough to notice how wrong it was. The person outside tilted their head, and she tilted hers too without meaning to. I saw her panic when she realized she was matching him automatically. She put her hands in her lap to stop moving. He copied that too. Hands down, completely still. I whispered that we should call someone, and she said police tried before, but he always disappears before they arrive. She said he doesn't speak. Doesn't move unless she does. He just watches. Waits. I stood up slowly because I needed to do something. I didn't want to sit there helpless. As soon as I moved, he moved too. I took one small step. He took the same. I sat back down. He stood there staring, like he knew everything we were doing even though he couldn't hear us through the window. I told her we could go out the side exit. She shook her head so fast, eyes full of fear. She said the only safe thing is to wait until he loses interest. We sat there in silence. I could feel this stare burning into the back of my head even without turning around. After what felt like forever, sirens roared down the street. Flashing lights reflected through the window. Someone must have called about a suspicious person outside earlier. Officers rushed out of the cars yelling for him to freeze. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He stayed staring straight through the window into the restaurant. Then suddenly he turned and walked into the alley next to the building. The officers chased him, but the alley was dark and narrow. They disappeared from sight. Seconds later, more sirens arrived, and officers began checking every corner. I finally turned to look properly. He was gone. Completely. No mask on the ground. No running footsteps. Like he melted into the shadows the second attention was on him. When things settled a bit, officers came inside asking if everyone was okay. Lily refused to talk. She kept repeating that it wasn't over. They gave her time, but she just sat there gripping her hands until her knuckles went white. I walked her home because she looked like she couldn't walk alone. Every time we passed a dark corner, she flinched. She wouldn't let me look behind us. She said once he copies someone, he never stops. When we reached her door, she hugged me and thanked me for staying. She told me not to talk about what I saw. She said that gives him more reason to follow. Then she closed the door and locked it twice. I left fast. I didn't want to be near that place anymore. But every reflective window I passed made me look for that mask. Every time I saw someone standing still, I thought it might be him. I deleted Tinder when I got home. I don't care how bored I get. So matches are not worth the story. I'd matched with this guy named Aaron on a boring Wednesday night. His profile wasn't anything weird. 3 photos. One with a dog, one at a restaurant, one in a hoodie by a lake. Normal. Funny bio. He messaged me first saying he liked my smile. I barely remembered what pictures I even put up. We talked a little. He seemed shy but sweet. He said he didn't really like going out much and preferred having people over and cooking. He asked if I wanted to come by his place on Friday night because he wanted to make pasta for us. I hesitated because going to someone's house can be weird. But he gave me the address, and it wasn't some sketchy area. I told my friend just in case, and she said to call if anything got strange. I didn't think it would. When I got there, he opened the door before I even knocked, like he'd been staring through the peef, through the door waiting for me. He smiled so wide I thought his face might crack. He said it was amazing to finally see me again. Again, I just assumed he was being awkward and ignored the wording. His place looked neat, maybe too neat, like he spent the whole day making it look perfect. Candles, soft music, table set like some romantic dinner from a movie. I thought it was kind of cute, like he really wanted to impress me. He kept looking at my face like he was double-checking something was still there. I sat down and noticed he didn't have many decorations. No posters or random stuff on the shelves. Just frames, a bunch of them. I looked closer and my brain stopped. Every single frame had a picture of me. Pictures I hadn't seen in years. One of me from when I was 13 at my cousin's birthday. A grainy one from school taken by someone who tagged me and I untagged myself right away. One of me playing football outside my old house. Screenshots from my Instagram stories from like 3 years ago. Selfies I deleted the same day I posted them. All printed, all framed, like some shrine dedicated to moments I forgot even existed. I felt my throat close up, but I didn't want to freak out too fast. I told myself maybe I just looked like someone he knew before. But then I turned and saw another group of frames on a shelf. Me in a school uniform. Me at a fair. Me holding a drink on a night out. These weren't accidents. He had been watching me online for a long time. I stood up slowly, and he rushed over smiling like he was proud of what he did. He kept saying we'd been together for so long. 13 years, he said light of fact. He said it like I should already know this. I laughed nervously and told him we'd only just met on the app. His smile dropped instantly. He stared like I'd said something stupid. He said we first talked online when we were kids. He said I wore blue braces and I always complained about them. I did have braces once, but I never posted about that. He said he knew everything about me because we were meant to be. I looked around for my bag because I needed my phone, but my bag wasn't by the table anymore. He must have moved it when I wasn't looking. He stepped closer and said we finally reached the day we'd waited for. 13 years is a long time to wait. He kept repeating that number. 13. 13. He said he counted every day since the first time he saw me online. I stepped back until I hit the table, and he stepped forward until there was no space left. I tried to act calm, like maybe I could talk my way out of whatever this was turning into. I told him I needed the bathroom. He smiled again, guiding me there gently but blocking the hallway like he didn't trust me to walk alone. He stood outside the door. I could see his shadow under the gap. I locked the door quietly and tried to breathe without making a sound. I looked at my reflection and didn't even recognize myself. I felt like I walked into someone else's nightmare. There was no window, nowhere to go. I stepped silently and opened the cabinet under the sink looking for something sharp or heavy. Nothing. I pulled out my phone from my pocket because I forgot to put it there earlier when we sat down. I texted my friend one word, help. Then the signal bar disappeared. No service. He must have turned on a jammer or something. Who even thinks to do that unless they plan something? I didn't flush because I didn't want any noise. I turned on the sink quietly, then turned it off again to pretend I was washing my hands. When I opened the door, he was standing right there smiling like he heard every thought inside my skull. He said I looked beautiful like always. He said I shouldn't worry because he would take care of me forever. His voice broke on the last word like he was about to cry. Then he opened his arms wide like I should hug him. I didn't. I asked where my bag went and his face twitched slightly annoyed. He said I didn't need it anymore because I was home now, home. A place I had never been to before this night, yet he talked like I had lived there for years. I stepped back slowly, but every direction felt like a trap. Then everything changed at once. A loud pounding on the front door. Not just one knock. Someone was beating on it with force. He snapped his head toward the sound and panic flashed through his eyes. He whispered something I couldn't catch and rushed to the door like he could stop whoever was there. The door burst open before he even touched the handle. Officers poured in, shouting his full name. They told him to get on the floor. He didn't listen. He started yelling that I was his and he had proof everywhere. They pinned him down hard and cuffed him while he kicked the floor, screaming about 13 years like the number was everything. One officer rushed over to me and asked if I was hurt. I couldn't speak. My voice was gone. I could only point at the walls. He looked and his face changed. He already knew what this meant. He said they'd been tracking a report about someone stalking women from social media for years. He said my message somehow slipped through the signal block and flagged my location. Lucky, that's what he called it. Lucky. They walked me outside and I watched them shove him into a police car. He kept looking at me like I was the one breaking his heart, like I ruined the future he thought he owned. I didn't say a word, not even when the officer asked if I needed someone to call. Because what do you even say about someone who loved you for 13 years when you didn't know they existed? You meet people in places you never would otherwise. And honestly, I was just tired of the same boring dates where nothing happened. When a girl named Maya matched with me and said she booked a hotel room so we could hang out without distractions, I didn't think twice. She was pretty confident, and she messaged first. That already made me feel like I was winning. She said she was in town for work stuff and didn't know anyone here. She liked that I seemed down to try something fun and spontaneous. I told myself I deserved something exciting for once. We agreed to meet in a hotel lobby. It was one of those places with shiny floors and a fake fireplace, the kind that pretend to be fancier than they are. I showed up early and sat texting her that I was there. She came down in a big hoodie and leggings, hair tied back, looking way more casual than her photos, but still cute. She gave me a quick hug like we'd already met before. I liked that. She said we could go up to her room because the lobby was too noisy. It really wasn't, but I followed anyway because I didn't want to be the guy who hesitates. The elevator ride was awkwardly quiet. She kept glancing at my phone in my hand like she was waiting for something. When the doors opened, she walked quick down the hallway and swiped her card at the end room. Inside, the place looked normal. Bed, TV, little desk with a lamp. But it felt kind of staged, like she'd set it up to look normal on purpose. She told me to sit on the bed while she grabbed us drinks from the mini fridge. I put my phone beside me and tried to act like I belonged here. She asked me questions about where I worked, if I lived alone, how many friends I hung out with regularly. Questions that didn't really feel like small talk, more like she was gathering details. But I answered anyway like an idiot. Then she sat next to me really close. She laughed at something I said and leaned over like she was going to kiss me, but instead she placed her hand on the bed behind me. I thought she was just being flirty until I realized her hand wasn't behind me. It was next to my phone. She slid her fingers towards it like she was trying to take it without me noticing. I pretended not to see it first because I didn't want to embarrass myself as she was just moving her hand. But she kept going, slow and sneaky, eyes still on mine like she was distracting me. The second her fingers touched my phone, she grabbed it fast and stood up like it was nothing. I asked her what she was doing and she smiled like I was being dramatic. She said she just needed to check something real quick. But her thumb was moving through screens way too fast for someone being curious. I reached for it gently, and she turned away quick like a kid hiding stolen candy. Then she shoved it into her hoodie pocket and told me to relax. I didn't relax. I stood up and told her to give it back. Her face changed immediately. Smile gone. Her eyes narrowed like she was suddenly bored of pretending. She said I should stay calm and that she just needed to grab a couple of details. What details? Why would she even need anything from my phone? Passwords? Bank apps? Personal info? Everything I didn't want a stranger touching was in there. I felt my heart beat in my neck. I tried to stay cool, but I stepped closer and told her again to hand it over. She stepped back with the same weird calm, like she'd done this before. I realized then that she wasn't here for a date at all. I was a target. Not a person, just a phone with data. Before I could grab her or yell or do anything smart, the hotel hallway exploded with noise. Running footsteps. Someone yelling for her to stop. The sound of radios buzzing. She froze like everything she feared finally caught up to her. I had no clue what was happening, but I wasn't the only one who came to this hotel tonight. The door burst open so hard it slammed into the wall. 2 officers rushed in pointing at her, yelling her real name, not Mia. She tried to run past them, but one tackled her into the hallway. My phone flew out of her pocket and slid across the floor. I rushed to pick it up before anyone else could. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it again. More officers appeared, shouting things I didn't understand. Identity theft, stolen phones, fake profiles, dating apps. They cuffed her while she screamed that she didn't do anything. But they didn't even look at me. They acted like this happened every day, like I was just another guy they saved last second. One detective stayed behind with me while they dragged her farther down the hallway. He asked if she managed to get any codes from me. I told him no, I noticed too fast. He nodded like I shouldn't feel proud because apparently these people usually go after guys who drink or get distracted. He told me she was part of a group that stole phones during fake dates, cloned the data, then drained accounts. They'd been tracking them for months because so many cases looked the same. He asked me if she already had any screenshots or managed to open anything. I checked my phone and saw notifications from apps I hadn't even opened yet. She was seconds away from unlocking everything important. He told me it showed up at the worst time and also the luckiest time. The officers walked her past us again. Her hair was messed up, and she kept looking at me like I betrayed her by not being stupid enough. Like I wasn't meant to notice. She didn't look scared. Just angry the plan failed. The detective gave me a card and said they might need to contact me later. I nodded, but I wasn't even listening fully. I was too busy checking if anything on my phone looked wrong. I kept thinking about how easily she got me here. How confident I was walking into that hotel like I was about to have the best night of my life. Turns out I almost lost everything instead. When I finally got home, I couldn't stop staring at my phone. That stupid rectangle we carry everywhere, filled with everything people need to pretend they're you. I reset all my passwords from my laptop just in case. My hands wouldn't stop shaking while I typed. I deleted Tinder, but deleting it doesn't erase how stupid I feel. She didn't want conversation or connection or even the thrill of a date. She wanted my identity, my whole life in one pocket-sized object. And I handed it to her without thinking. I always tell myself I'm going to stay off Tinder because every time I go on there, I end up matching the strangest people. But then boredom wins and I swipe again like I forgot every horror story already in my brain. I matched with this guy named Ollie pretty quick. He had messy blonde hair, a hoodie in every picture, and those big headphones around his neck like he lives inside Spotify. His bio said something like addicted to crime podcasts and long walks at night. I thought he was joking. I should have known that wasn't a funny line. We started talking and he was actually interesting. He asked me what I'd do if someone followed me home. I thought he was just trying to be dark-humored. He talked about these cases he listened to every night before bed. He said he always wondered what goes through a person's mind right before they do something awful. He sent me voice notes about it too. The calmness in his voice made it feel less creepy somehow. I convinced myself he was just curious and into storytelling or something like true crime fans usually are. He asked if I wanted to go on a walk with him since he loved exploring late. I told him that sounded chill. Walking outside felt safer than being stuck somewhere. I picked a well-lit road near a main street. He showed up wearing the exact same outfit from one of his pictures. Hoodie, headphones, hands shoved in his pockets. His smile was tiny and stiff like he hadn't practiced smiling around real people in a long time. We started walking and talking. Well, mostly he talked. He told me about a podcast episode where someone disappeared on a quiet walk just like this and how nobody ever found out what happened to them. I laughed a bit just to keep the mood from turning weird, but inside I was like, why would anyone bring that up casually on a first date? He kept asking what I would do if I ever thought someone was behind me. He said fear is interesting when you don't know if it's real or imagined. He asked if I ever think about the exact moment someone realizes they're in danger. I stopped laughing then because he wasn't telling these stories like a fan. He sounded like he was studying everything. The more he talked, the more I noticed how close he kept stepping, like shoulder brushing close. Like he didn't want me any further than his arms reach. The street we were on had lights, but the trees made everything feel darker than usual. Shops were closed. Barely any cars passed us. I checked my phone pretending to look at a message, even though no one texted me. I just needed an excuse to slow down. He slowed when I slowed, sped up when I sped up, like he was mirroring every move without thinking, or maybe he was thinking too much. I kept an eye on his hands because something in me said, don't look away. One hand stayed in his hoodie pocket. The other swung loosely by his side, but then at one point he moved the swinging hand behind his back like he was adjusting something. I looked down and caught a glimpse of metal. Just a tiny reflection of streetlight bouncing off a blade, a knife. He was gripping a knife behind his back like he was waiting for the right moment to pull it out. My whole body went into silent panic mode. I didn't want to scream or run because he was way too close and could grab me in 1 second. I tried to think of something normal to say like I should head home soon or I forgot I had an early shift. I looked around for someone else, anyone else, but we were alone. He kept talking in his low voice about how crime podcasts make you understand how fragile everything is. How easy it is for one moment to change your whole life. He said sometimes the person who gets hurt doesn't even know what's coming. They're just living their normal night. And he said that sentence like he was reading off a script. I forced out this awkward laugh and said I was getting tired and maybe we should go back. He stopped walking completely and stared at me like I surprised him. His eyes didn't look confused though. They looked disappointed, like I sped up his timetable before he was ready. Then a siren started in the distance, faint but getting closer fast. Lights trimmed the sky, a flashing blue and red above the trees. The sound echoed through the street and he froze. Not me, him, like a deer right when a car hits the brakes. His hand squeezed tighter behind his back. I stepped away slowly, acting like I was moving to the sidewalk edge. 2 police cars turned the corner and immediately the officers spotted us. The cars stopped so fast, the tires screeched. Officers jumped out pointing flashlights at us. They shouted for him to drop what was in his hand. He kept standing still like his brain was buffering. It shouted louder. He finally let the knife fall to the ground. It clinked against the pavement like a tiny sound in a huge nightmare. One of the officers rushed him, pinned him to the car, cuffed him quick while he started yelling he didn't do anything yet. The yet part made me want to throw up. Another officer walked me away asking if I was hurt. I told him no, but my legs were so weak I had to lean against the wall. They said they'd been watching him for a while because he tried to follow girls home from bars before. They never had enough proof to arrest him until now. They tracked him tonight and saw he was with someone. That someone was me. I kept staring at the knife on the ground because I couldn't get the image of it behind his back out of my head. I was right there, 1 second away from a story that could have been on one of his stupid podcasts. The officer offered to drive me home. I sat in the back seat and watched as they shoved him into the other car. He wasn't yelling anymore. He just kept saying I was perfect for his test. He said it like a compliment. I don't think I'll ever forget his face when he said that. When I finally got home, I locked every door twice. I deleted Tinder but kept opening my phone again like I had to check something. Like he somehow still had access to me. I sat in bed with the lights on, afraid of every sound outside. I keep hearing footsteps even when there's nothing. And what destroys me the most is how normal he seemed at first. Like he could have just been a shy guy who liked true crime too much. But he didn't want to listen to stories. He wanted to make one happen. I could have been the next episode. I think the worst thing about dating apps is how quick everything happens. You match, you talk for a bit, and suddenly someone you barely know is inviting you to their house like that's normal. I'd had boring dates, awkward ones, ghosting, all the usual. Nothing too dangerous. So when I matched with Sarah, I didn't think anything bad would happen. She seemed excited to meet, and honestly, I liked the attention. She lived a little outside town in this apartment complex near the park. She said she'd rather chill inside because she didn't like crowds and bars were too loud. I thought that was kind of cute, like she was shy or something. She told me I could come by around 9. Late, but not too late. I told my friend where I was going, of course, like everyone tells you to do, but I didn't feel worried. When I got there, she opened the door fast like she'd been standing right behind it waiting. She looked like her pictures, which already put me at ease. Her hair tied up, comfy hoodie, not trying too hard. She smiled big and told me to come inside. The place looked normal enough. Couch, TV, some fairy lights on the walls. But one thing felt off immediately. There were phones everywhere. Not like thrown around. Set up. Placed on shelves, leaning against books, one on a tripod in the corner. All pointed inward at the living room. I just stared at them trying to figure out if she was a YouTuber or something. She saw me looking and said she makes videos sometimes, but they weren't recording right now. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But some of the screens were on facing me. Not bright, but I could see reflections. It felt like dozens of eyes were staring at me. She motioned for me to sit on the couch, so I did slowly, trying not to look paranoid. My heart immediately sped up, though. We talked for a little bit, but she kept giggling nervously at her own jokes. She wasn't paying attention to me much. She was glancing at the phones more than she was looking at my face. I asked her what kind of videos she made, and she paused for way too long. Then she said it was just fun content with friends. There were no friends here. She walked over to the kitchen for a second, and I quickly grabbed one of the phones from the table near me. It was recording. Fully recording. A live chat was scrolling across the screen, but the brightness was low so nobody would notice unless they looked closely. People were typing stuff like turn him around and get him closer, and he looked scared. My stomach nearly dropped out of my body. I put the phone back exactly how I found it because I didn't want her to notice yet. I forced a smile when she came back with drinks. My hand was shaking when I took mine, so I pretended to cough so I could set it down fast. No way was I drinking anything here. My whole body was telling me to run, but I needed a decent reason to get out without making things weird. She sat way too close to me and asked if I liked being watched. Her voice was tiny, but the question felt heavy. I laughed awkwardly and said I wasn't really into cameras. She twirled her hair while her eyes flicked to the tripod camera like someone was prompting her what to do. I realized she wasn't nervous for me. She was nervous because she was performing. I checked the door behind me and measured how fast I could get to it if I suddenly sprinted. Then everything exploded at once. Someone pounded on the door. Not a knock. more like they were trying to break it down. Sarah froze mid-movement, eyes wide, lips open like she forgot how to breathe. Another loud bang. Then police shouted from the hallway, real police, yelling her name, telling her to open up right now. She jumped up fast and panicked, looking at all the phones like she didn't know which one to turn off first. I stood up too, but I moved closer to the door because I needed to get away from her. She whispered for me not to say anything and grabbed my wrist, but I tore away from her so hard she stumbled. Police kept banging louder, saying if she didn't open the door, they'd force entry. She tried to hide one of the phones under a cushion like that would help. I yelled out that I was inside, and before she could stop me, I unlocked the door. The door slammed open instantly, and officers rushed in, pointing tasers, yelling for her to get on the ground. She was shaking and saying they were being dramatic. They cuffed her right away while she begged them not to take her cameras. One detective looked around the room with disgust. He picked up one of the phones and saw the stream. He asked me if I knew I was being filmed, and I said no, I didn't know anything. He asked if I drank anything she gave me, and I told him definitely not. Turns out Sarah had been posting live streams online for this creepy site where viewers paid to watch strangers get tricked into weird situations. She'd invite guys over, film them secretly, and the viewers would vote on what she should do next. Nothing crazy had happened to me yet, but the stuff she had done to other guys in past videos made my skin crawl. She'd slip stuff in their drinks, embarrass them on camera, and sometimes trick them into changing clothes or doing things they didn't agree to. And tonight's live stream was already titled something about a new toy. One officer gave me a blanket which felt ridiculous because I wasn't cold, just horrified. I sat on the steps outside while police carried out bags of equipment. Sarah kept yelling that she didn't hurt anyone and everyone loved her content. She looked directly at me once while screaming, and I swear the way she stared made me feel like I was still on camera. The detective told me I was unbelievably lucky they've been tracking her for weeks. Someone reported the site and the police got access to her streams. They were watching tonight. They saw me sit down and saw the viewers demanding she make a move soon. They stopped it just in time. I didn't know what to say. I felt stupid for ever getting in that car, for thinking meeting at someone's apartment was normal, for not seeing the signs. I couldn't stop imagining what would have happened if the police took just 10 more minutes. When I got home, I stayed awake on my couch with all the lights on. I deleted Tinder, but that doesn't delete what I saw. I keep wondering who the girl before me was. If someone on that live stream still has the footage. If I'm saved on someone's phone right now as entertainment. The scariest part is how a stranger can turn you into content without you even knowing. I thought I was going on a date, but to her I was just a live show she wanted to make money off of. And the worst part is I didn't even realize I had an audience. I thought car meetups were dumb, but sometimes you just want something easy. No long walk, no awkward hunt for a table. Just sit and talk, and if it sucks you can leave fast. My friends told me I should only meet in public places, but I ignored that like an idiot. I matched this guy named Rory, and he said he'd pick me up near the shops so we could grab a drink drive-through style and just talk. That sounded harmless enough. He had nice pictures, tidy haircut, friendly smile, and no weird comments in the chat. I told him I'd only get in the car if I felt comfortable when I saw him. He said fair enough. He pulled up in this dark gray car that looked way newer than what a guy at his age should own. Window lowered, and he gave this soft hey that sounded genuinely nervous. That made me feel safer for some stupid reason. I got inside and shut the door, trying not to look awkward. His car smelled like new plastic and some kind of mint air freshener. He asked about my day. I asked about his, the usual boring conversation that helps fill silence. He had one hand on the wheel and kept drumming the fingers on his other hand against his leg like he had too much energy trapped inside him. We pulled away from the shops and just drove around the neighborhood, talking about random stuff. He kept saying I seemed really familiar to him, and I joked maybe he had seen me around. I didn't think anything of it. He said he lived only like 10 minutes from here and knew all the best back roads for a quiet drive. I nodded like that was cool, but inside I wasn't sure if I liked how quiet it was getting. No street lights, barely any houses, just trees and empty roads. I started feeling thirsty and asked if we could stop somewhere. He smiled and said, yeah, let me just grab something he had in the glove box first. He popped it open and papers slid out a bit. He reached inside quick, took whatever he needed and closed it again. But the papers that had shifted caught my eye because the top one wasn't just paper. It was a missing person poster, the kind you see on street poles. A girl's face printed clear as day with bold writing underneath. And the girl looked exactly like me. Same hair length, same face shape, even the same kind of jacket I was wearing in one of my own Tinder pics. I didn't react straight away because my brain froze like someone yanked the cable out. I told myself not to panic because maybe it was a coincidence or he was volunteering or something normal. But he slammed the glove box shut so fast like he didn't want me seeing anything else. He forced a laugh and said it was nothing important. His laugh didn't match his eyes. His eyes were focused forward like he was trying to keep his thoughts locked in. My chest started tightening. I kept replaying that poster in my head. The girl had been missing for a month. A whole month. I glanced sideways at the door thinking maybe I could just jump out and run, though we were going too fast. He asked if I liked music and reached to connect his phone. His voice was shaking a little, but he was trying to act cool. I said I was fine with no music, trying to keep my voice light. He nodded, but his jaw was clenched tight. I texted my friend under the table of my phone saying his car, dark roads, weird vibes, but my signal was barely working out here. The message kept loading. I wanted to lock my phone, but my hands were slippery from sweat. The worst part is he kept smiling at me, like he was proud of something, like he found the exact person he wanted. I asked where we were actually going now because it wasn't anywhere near the drive-through area anymore. He said not to worry and that he knew a quiet spot by a lake where we could park and talk better. That sounded like the last place on earth I wanted to go. My breathing got loud in my ears. I tried not to cry right there. I started thinking about how I could grab the wheel or scream or something if he tried anything. But that everything changed before I had to find out what he planned. Blue flashing lights lit up the inside of the car. A police car behind us. Siren blipped once. Rory's body language snapped tight like someone pulled wires inside him. He slowed and pulled over to the side. He told me not to say a single word. His voice wasn't the calm one from before. It was sharp and controlling. The officer walked up to the window and asked for his license. He passed it over with a fake smile. The officer asked where we were heading and Rory tried to act casual. Another officer stepped around the car, shining a torch inside. I tried to silently scream through my eyes for help. I hoped they'd understand something wasn't right. The officer asked if we could both step outside. Rory tensed, but nodded. Once I got out, the air hit me like I'd been drowning. My legs were shaky, but at least I was out of that car. The second I reached the side of the road, one officer leaned in the driver door and saw restraints on the back seat floor. Metal cuffs, rope, tape, stuff that didn't belong randomly in a car, stuff that made sense with that poster I saw. The officer's tone changed instantly. They pulled him back and told him to keep his hands visible. Rory tried to argue, but they were already forcing his arms behind his back. I jumped away from the door, staring at those restraints like they were staring back at me. One officer asked if I was hurt. I said no, but my voice cracked like I was lying. They searched the trunk and found more. I didn't even want to know what. One of them closed the trunk fast like they didn't want me seeing more details that would live in my mind forever. The road was dark and empty, but suddenly felt like the safest place in the world. Rory kept looking at me as they pushed him toward the police car. Not angry. Not scared. More like confused that his plan didn't land right. He said something under his breath, but I didn't want to hear it. The officers told me I was incredibly lucky. They said the missing person poster was from a case nearby and they needed to ask me some questions at the station. I sat on the roadside shaking while they wrote stuff down. I kept glancing at the glove box through the window like that poster could crawl out if I stared too long. I asked one of the officers if the girl on the poster was found. He didn't answer right away. He told me they were still searching. They drove me home and waited until I went inside. I locked the door 3 times and curled up on the floor. My phone finally sent the message to my friend saying weird vibes, but it was way too late. I wanted to reply saying I almost didn't get to reply at all. I deleted Tinder but stared at the app logo for a long time first. I kept imagining my own face printed on one of those posters. Same smile I used to match him. And the part that sticks in my head the most is how normal he looked when he first picked me up. Nobody can warn you about someone like that because he blended in perfectly. I went on a date thinking I'd laugh and maybe flirt, and instead I ended up sitting next to someone who probably planned for me to never go home again. I always thought dinner dates were the safest ones. Public restaurant, decent lighting, staff watching, people all around. When I matched with Ella, I figured if anything went weird, I could just leave without making a huge scene. She looked normal. Better than normal, actually. She had that warm, clean look and this bright smile in every photo. She called me cute in her messages, which honestly got me way more excited than it should have. She picked the restaurant herself, saying it was her favorite and that she wanted the night to be perfect. I thought she was just hyping it up so I would actually show. I put on a shirt that wasn't wrinkled for once and tried to pretend I was confident. The place was pretty nice, but not too fancy. Low lighting, couples everywhere, candles on the tables. It looked like those restaurants you see in romantic movies where things always go smoothly. I got there first and sat by the window. I kept looking at our reflection thinking I should have shaved a little better. She walked in a few minutes later wearing a black dress and immediately the place felt different. Like she drew all the attention without trying. She smiled big when she saw me and sat down fast like she didn't want to waste any time. She told me again that tonight was perfect. She said that exact phrase 6 times within the first 10 minutes. I didn't know what that meant. Maybe she was just excited to go on a date for once like me. But the way she said it made it sound like she'd been planning something way bigger. Her eyes kept darting behind me every so often like she was checking something I wasn't seeing. The waitress came and took our drink orders. Ella didn't even look at the menu. She just said she already knew what she wanted and told me the pasta was the best thing here. I said sure, I'd get the same. I was trying to play it chill since she seemed sure of everything. I asked her basic stuff like where she worked and if she had siblings. She answered but really quickly, like she wanted the conversation to be done instantly. She kept smiling, but it wasn't the relaxed kind. It was the kind where her mouth was smiling but her brain was somewhere else. She would glance over my shoulder constantly. I turned once to check, but all I saw were more tables and couples eating. She said tonight was perfect again after a long, quiet moment. This time she whispered it to herself. I started feeling kind of stupid because maybe she didn't even care about me. Maybe I was just a filler person to pass the time. Then she leaned forward and said she was happy I came because everything was finally working out. She sounded almost emotional. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded like an idiot. Our food arrived and it smelled amazing, but I didn't have much appetite anymore. I tried to eat normally, but I kept noticing her breathing get heavier. She kept wiping her hands on her napkin like she was sweating even though it wasn't hot. I asked if she was okay, and she just looked at me and said I was doing great, like I was part of some test I didn't know I signed up for. Then it happened all at once. The restaurant door burst open and officers rushed in yelling commands. The whole room jumped and silverware hit the floor. I sat frozen with my fork halfway to my mouth. They didn't look at us though. They went behind me. I heard chairs slam against the ground and people scream. I turned slow and saw a man being shoved down by 3 officers near the table directly behind me. They had guns out and told him not to move or they would fire. The man looked like he was about to attack someone a second before they tackled him, and his eyes were locked on our table like he was ready to rip someone apart. His clothes looked dirty, his hair a mess, veins popping out of his neck from yelling. He kept screaming her name. Not mine. Hers. Ella. As they pinned him down, Ella sat perfectly still. Not scared. Not surprised. She just stared at him while tears rolled down her face one after the other. She didn't wipe them. She didn't look away. She whispered perfect again, but this time it sounded like relief and anger mixed into one. I asked her what was going on because I genuinely had no idea if I was safe or seconds away from being dragged into some drama. She finally told me. Her voice was shaky now, like she could finally breathe. She said the man was her ex. She said he used to hurt her and wouldn't let her live her own life after she left him. She got a restraining order, but he kept following her, texting from fake numbers, showing up to places she went. She said the police were trying to track him down for weeks but could never catch him in the act. They needed him to show up somewhere public with proof he was stalking her. She told me she used Tinder because he always watched her socials. She made sure he saw she was going on a date. She knew he'd come. She knew he'd be here. And she needed someone to play the part of her moving on so he would snap and show himself. I looked at the plate in front of me, then back at her like I didn't know who I was sitting with anymore. She wasn't crazy or dangerous, but she had used me without warning. I was the bait. If he had gotten closer, if the officers were late by even 2 minutes, who knows what he would have done. I suddenly felt sick thinking about how his eyes were on me when they showed up. The officers dragged him out still screaming her name like he owned it. Ella didn't move until he was gone. Then she finally took a deep breath for what looked like the first time in years. She thanked me quietly, but it wasn't the kind of thank you that made any of this feel okay. She said I helped her finally be free, but I didn't choose to help. I just thought I was going on a normal date with a pretty girl. The manager came over asking if we needed anything, and I told him I wanted the bill even though I barely touched the food. I just needed to go. Ella asked if I wanted to sit for a minute to calm down, but I said I really had to leave. She gave me the sad smile like she knew I would never talk to her again. I walked out into the cold air and stopped on the sidewalk for a minute to catch my breath. I thought I was going to pass out. Cars kept passing by like nothing happened. People walking by laughing, clueless. Meanwhile, I just helped trap a violent stalker without even knowing. I deleted Tinder right when I got home, but then put my phone down and just stared at the wall. I keep thinking about how she said tonight was perfect, like everything had to go exactly as planned. I was part of her plan, just a placeholder for a story that wasn't mine. I wasn't special to her. I was just someone she needed to be seen with. When I look back on it, the part that scares me most isn't the police or the ex or the yelling. It's knowing I had absolutely no clue I was in danger until it was already over. His name on the app was Callum. Quiet kind of guy. Hardly any emojis. Short replies, but not rude. He said he wasn't into loud places and crowds freaked him out a bit, so he chose a bar that was pretty chill. Low music, dim lighting, not many people. I liked that actually. I was tired of going places where everyone acted like they were performing for each other. I got ready without stressing too much. Jeans, nice top, hair down. I checked his profile again before leaving. 3 pictures, all normal. One with a dog, one in a restaurant, one selfie in a mirror. Nothing dramatic. He looked like a shy dude who probably kept to himself. I felt kind of safe because shy guys never hurt anyone right. That was what I thought anyway. The place he picked was a bar near the station. I walked in and texted him that I was here. He messaged back saying he was already inside, near the back. I scanned the room and saw him immediately. He looked exactly like his photos, but more nervous, staring at his hands, tapping the table with one finger over and over. I went over, smiled, sat down, tried to break that weird silence by joking about how I nearly forgot my ID. He just nodded and smiled a tiny bit, like he was forcing it. The bartender came over and asked if we wanted drinks. I ordered something light, and Callum said he wasn't drinking tonight. He said it quickly, like he didn't want attention. I tried to just keep it casual. Ask about his dog, how long he's been on the app, that kind of stuff. But he barely answered anything with more than a few words. He'd say yeah or fine or it's okay, and then look around the bar like he was checking every corner. I thought maybe he was just socially awkward. I've dealt with that before, and honestly, I don't mind it. Better than someone who doesn't shut up. But something about him made my chest feel heavy, like he was scared of something or someone, like he was waiting for trouble to walk through the door. Behind him on the wall, there was a TV playing the news with captions on because the music was playing. I wasn't really watching it at first, but then I caught my own eyes drifting over at his shoulder. The screen switched to something different, a wanted alert. Big headline underneath the news reporter. A picture popped up on screen. My brain didn't react at first. It didn't connect anything. I stared for maybe 2 seconds trying to compare what I was seeing to the man sitting right in front of me. Messy brown hair, defined jaw, that same look in the eyes like he didn't want anyone to notice him. It wasn't just similar. It was him. Exactly him. I froze. I couldn't breathe properly for a second. The caption under his photo said something about him being dangerous and considered armed. Something about escaping custody. The exact words blurred because my head started buzzing like a fire alarm. I snapped my eyes back to Callum and tried not to show that I recognized him. I forced the biggest fake smile ever while he kept staring around like he was expecting someone to show up. The bartender must have seen the TV too because he walked back to our table like nothing was wrong, but his face wasn't relaxed anymore. He asked Callum again if he was sure he didn't want a drink. His voice was too cheerful. He locked eyes with me for half a second and gave me this tiny nod like don't move, don't show fear. I felt my phone buzzing nonstop in my pocket. Probably my friend asking how the date was going. I didn't dare look. I didn't want Callum to think I was texting someone about him. But inside I kept saying to myself over and over that I needed to leave now. I thought about saying I needed the bathroom, but what if he followed me? What if he blocked the door? While I was panicking silently, Callum turned his head a bit toward the TV, only for a second, and I swear he recognized his own face too. His tapping fingers stopped. His shoulders tensed like ready to run. I had no idea what he had done. Murder? Robbery? Something worse? All I knew was that I didn't want to be next to him when he decided his date was over. But I didn't have to figure anything out. It happened fast. The entrance door slammed open and officers came in shouting for everyone to freeze. People dropped their drinks. Someone screamed. I just stared straight at the table because I didn't want to make sudden moves. They rushed straight to our table like they'd been watching us the whole time. 2 officers grabbed Callum from behind and shoved him to the floor. He struggled hard like he actually thought he could break free. They kept yelling at him to stop resisting, and one pulled out cuffs and locked his wrists. Another officer stood right by me holding his gun out, telling me to stay still. I think I nodded. I don't remember. Everything went loud and blurry. The bartender was already on the phone saying something like confirmed target detained. He looked over at me again, checking if I was okay. I didn't feel okay. I felt like my bones dissolved into water. Callum kept looking at me while they dragged him up. His eyes didn't look scared. They looked angry, like he was pissed I figured him out or ruined some twisted plan. They pushed him out of the bar, and the moment he disappeared, my whole body started shaking. The officer came up to me and asked if I knew who he was before meeting him. I kept saying I had no clue. He just told me I was lucky the bartender saw the alert first. Apparently, they'd been tracking Callum's phone and knew he was meeting someone here. They wanted to grab him before he could leave with whoever he was meeting. That someone was me. I sat there while the bar slowly returned to normal noise and people whispered at their tables about how insane that was. I couldn't move. The bartender brought me water and said I did good staying calm. I didn't feel calm. I felt like I walked straight into the middle of a nightmare because I wanted a free drink and some attention. When I finally got outside, I checked my phone. My friend had texted like 10 times asking if he was cute. I didn't know how to reply. I just said I wasn't staying and I was on my way home. I looked down the street and saw the police cars leading with Callum inside. His head was leaned against the window, but he kept staring out like he was trying to find me in the crowd, like he wanted me to know he wouldn't forget my face. I deleted Tinder again that night. I always say I won't re-download it. I know I probably will. But right now I can't even stand the thought of matching some random guy without wondering if he's hiding from something worse. I had been single for a while, and honestly, I was tired of everyone around me acting like I needed to be in a relationship to be normal. My friends kept telling me Tinder wasn't that bad if you just went for it. So I tried again, thinking maybe this time wouldn't be the same boring conversations that die after a day. I matched with this girl named Jada. She had this cool style, streetwear look, dark hair, tattoos, and a smirk in every picture like she knew something nobody else did. Her messages came fast, kind of intense, but in a fun way. She said she liked people who actually showed up instead of just texting forever. She asked me to meet her the next day at a cafe in town. Not a bar or some creepy area, just a public place in daylight. The safest possible setup. I got there early because I always do. I kept checking my phone pretending not to look nervous. When she walked in, she looked exactly like her photos. She had that confidence that made everyone stare for a sec. She sat down across from me and smiled like we already knew each other. I wasn't used to girls like that giving me attention, so I felt weirdly lucky. But right away, I noticed something off. She kept glancing at the door, like every 10 seconds. She'd look, then act normal again, then look again. I tried to ignore it because maybe she was waiting for a friend to come by and say hi or something. The cafe was busy, people coming in and out constantly. She watched every single person who walked in like she expected one of them to be trouble. I tried to start a normal conversation. I asked what she liked to do, and she gave short answers like she was only half listening. Her focus was on the door. Her hands were on the table, tapping like she was trying to burn energy off. I asked if she wanted to order something, and she said no, she wasn't staying long. She kept checking the time on her phone and then the door again. I laughed a bit thinking maybe she was just nervous too, and didn't know how to show it. I told her it's okay if she wanted to leave early, but she just stared at me for a second like she was trying to decide something important. She finally said she was glad I came, and that I looked exactly like my pictures. The way she said it didn't feel flirty though. It felt like she was confirming something. I asked if she was alright because she looked like she was expecting a bomb to go off. She brushed it off and said everything was fine. She was just anxious from too much caffeine earlier. She even tried to fake a laugh, but it didn't fit what her eyes were doing. Her eyes were locked on the entrance again, watching another group walk in. I noticed she didn't take off her coat or her bag. She was sitting like someone about to sprint out the door at any second. Her shoulders were stiff, ready to move. I tried to make myself more relaxed so maybe she'd follow my lead, but nothing changed. The longer I sat there, the more my brain started asking stupid questions like, what if she isn't who she said she is? What if she's waiting for someone else? What if I'm not supposed to be here? Then it happened. The door flew open harder than normal, and two guys in plain clothes rushed in with badges up and radios clipped to their jackets. They weren't loud, but everyone noticed immediately. One pointed to the back of the cafe where we were sitting. Then they started moving fast towards us. I didn't know what was going on, so I stood up instantly, thinking someone might be in danger. Jada didn't stand up. She straightened her back and put her hands on the table like she was about to flip it or something. The officers reached us in seconds. One grabbed her arm and pulled it behind her while the other said something to her under his breath. She didn't fight back at all. She just stared at me with this blank expression. Not scared. Not angry. Blank. Another officer came in and stood by me asking if I was okay. I didn't even know what to say. I just asked what was happening. He told me I needed to step aside because she was under arrest. The entire cafe was dead silent except for the officers talking through radios and people whispering. Everyone stared at me too, like I knew her deeply or like I brought danger inside with me. I asked what she did and the officer told me they couldn't say much, but she was connected to an active case involving missing people. He said she used apps to find her targets and get them somewhere quiet or isolated. Then they would be taken somewhere else. He said I was lucky the date was in a public place in broad daylight. My heart dropped hard when I realized she was scanning the entrance because she knew this was coming for her. She wasn't looking out for me or nervous about the date. She was checking to see if she could run. And I had been sitting right in front of her joking about how I never get lucky with matches. While they put cuffs on her, she kept looking at me, still blank, maybe annoyed she wasted time on me. Maybe mad she didn't get to finish whatever plan she had. Or maybe I was never the plan at all and she just needed me there as a reason to be in the cafe so no one got suspicious. As they were walking her out, she finally smiled. Not a friendly smile. One like she wanted me to remember her face forever. Like I was just a small part of something huge that I could never understand. The officer told me they had been tracking her and two others for months. They knew she had planned to meet someone here today. They just didn't know who. He wrote down my name and number, said I might need to come in and talk more later. I nodded, but inside my brain was spinning so fast I felt dizzy. Everyone stared until I left. I didn't finish my drink. I didn't even say bye to the waiter. I just walked out into the cold and kept walking until I was far away from the cafe. I didn't even realize I was shaking until I tried to text my friend and my fingers kept messing up the screen. Later that night, I opened Tinder and her profile was still there for a moment before it disappeared right in front of me. Like the app already knew not to show her to anyone ever again. What freaks me out most isn't that she was involved in something so dark. It's that I didn't notice anything earlier. She looked totally normal online. She matched with me like any other person. She had pictures by the beach and in the city like she had friends and a normal live. But she used all of that to grab people who trusted her, like me. And I had no clue I was sitting across from someone the police had been hunting. I keep telling myself I'm done with Tinder, but then I always end up reinstalling it when I'm bored or lonely or just curious. I think most people my age do this. Swipe for attention, match someone decent, chat, then eventually make excuses and never meet them. But this time the guy actually seemed funny and normal, and I felt like why not just go and see what happens. His name was Liam. He had the clean haircut type look, dark stubble, casual photos with friends. His bio said he liked movies, cooking, and photography. Nothing weird. We talked for like 2 days and it didn't feel forced at all. No creepy questions or strange comments. He asked if I wanted to come over to his flat for dinner because he makes the best pasta ever and wanted to prove it. That should have been a red flag because guys who say they cook often don't, but I was hungry and bored, and he lit up my phone with energy. He said it would just be us, no parties or anything, just a chill night. I kept thinking I'm not stupid, I'll meet him outside first, keep my phone on, let my friend know where I'm going. I did all that. I even planned to leave if he said anything strange when I got there. I told him I'd order a taxi and be on my way. He sent me his address, and it looked like a normal apartment building near a main road, not some random house in the woods or something. The closer I got, the more I hyped myself up. I checked my hair in the window of the taxi and tried to look confident and relaxed. I messaged him that I was arriving, and he said great. He was just cleaning up and to come straight to the third floor. As soon as I stepped out of the taxi, I noticed something odd. There were 2 police cars parked outside the building with their lights off. I thought maybe someone called them for a noise complaint or neighbors arguing. I walked inside, and the lobby was normal. Just a boring hallway smell and of old tiles. The lift was working, so I took it up to the third floor, trying not to overthink. The doors opened, and instantly I knew something was wrong. There were detectives standing around on that floor, not in uniform. They were wearing those plain clothes, but with badges hanging around their necks. There was also this woman officer in gloves talking into a radio. The air felt heavy, like something serious was going on. I didn't want to look scared because maybe I was just walking into some completely unrelated situation. One of the detectives looked at me and asked who I was visiting. I told him I was there to see someone named Liam. The moment I said his name, they all reacted like it was a trigger word. The detective nodded slowly, like, yeah, that's the guy. He asked how I knew him, and I blurted out that we matched on Tinder. I felt stupid the second I said it because I sounded like some random girl who walks into danger for fun. He pulled me aside before I could even think about leaving. He wasn't rude, just serious and asking questions really quickly. He wanted to know if I ever met him before, if he asked for anything personal, if I sent him anything like photos or my exact location. I said no, we just chatted casually. He wrote stuff down and kept glancing at the open door at the end of the hallway. It was the flat Lim told me to come to. I looked inside from where I was and saw police moving around everywhere inside the flat. Cables on the floor, computers taken apart, screens showing camera feeds that looked like different rooms in people's homes. I spotted one with a baby in a cot, crying. Another with a woman brushing her hair in her bedroom. At first my brain didn't make sense of it, but then it hit me. He was spying on people. Real families, real kids. The detective explained that they had been tracking someone who hacked baby monitors all around the neighborhood. Some were cameras in bedrooms, some in hallways. He said Liam was caught accessing private feeds last night, and when they came to arrest him earlier, he ran. Apparently he left minutes before I got there. I stood there cold and embarrassed and honestly sick to my stomach because I was literally about to be alone in his flat. If I hadn't walked into the police, I would have been sitting at his table eating pasta. He probably didn't even make himself while surrounded by screens spying on strangers. The officer asked if he had given me any instructions about the building or if he'd asked me to bring anything. I told him everything exactly like how it happened. Then he thanked me for cooperating and said I should probably head home but to keep my phone on in case they had more questions later. He wasn't threatening, just trying to make sure I didn't freak out. The messed up part is I still had some hope inside my chest, like maybe he wasn't the one doing it. Like maybe Lion had a roommate, or maybe those screens weren't what they looked like. But then I saw a framed picture on the hallway table with him smiling. Same face from his profile. No question. While I was leaving, one officer stood by the staircase holding a plastic bag with electronics inside labeled evidence. She looked tired, like she'd been working all day. I wanted to say something like I can't believe this is real, or thank you, or maybe just I'm sorry I got in the way, but I didn't. I just kept walking. When the lift closed, it felt like I left a different version of the world behind that I wasn't ready to know existed. Outside, I sat on a wall near the entrance and tried to breathe. I didn't want to call anyone because how do you even start that call? Hey, guess what? The guy I was about to date is actually spying on babies. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. I opened Tinder and his profile was already gone, like he erased himself the second he ran. I called another taxi, and while waiting I thought about how the detectives acted when I said his name. I wasn't the first girl he lured there. I could tell by the way they reacted. Maybe he used dating apps to bring random people into his flat so they wouldn't question why he had so many cameras, like pretending he was into photography. Maybe he just liked having someone there so he could pretend he was normal for a second. Maybe he wanted someone to show his secret to. I don't even want to imagine if he planned something worse. When I got home, I locked my door, then locked it again from habit. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't know and I ignored it. I sat on my bed trying not to stare at my phone camera. I know they said it was baby monitors he hacked, not phones, but I still covered the camera with a sticker. I deleted Tinder again. I guess I'll reinstall it next month when I'm bored, but for now I'm pretending I learned something. I keep replaying the moment the detective's face changed when I said Lamb's name, like he already expected me. I don't know what I would have walked into if I showed up 10 minutes earlier. Probably him smiling, telling me to sit down while he had those screens on quietly somewhere, and I'd be completely clueless. I always thought Tinder was just some dumb app to pass time when I couldn't sleep. Swipe, match, chat, joke about stupid prompts. That night I was bored, sitting in our room scrolling, not expecting anything real. Then I matched with this girl called Marla. Her profile was weird. Every photo was taken in a cemetery. One was her sitting on a stone angel statue like it was a park bench. Another was her smiling next to a gravestone with fresh flowers. Her bio said something like she loved the quiet. I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be funny or edgy or whatever. I just thought maybe she was that kind of goth kid who wants to look mysterious. She messaged me first, which already felt surprising. She kept asking if I liked exploring places at night. I told her I guess I didn't mind. Then she asked if I wanted to meet up right away. Like no planning, no thinking, just get up and leave. I joked and asked where, and she sent me a location. It was literally a cemetery at night. I laughed staring at my phone because I figured this was going to be some Halloween prank type thing. I told her if she was joking, then nice one, but she wasn't. She said the cemetery was only fun after dark, that the moon made the stones glow. She said she was already there waiting. I don't know why I actually went. Maybe I just wanted a story to tell my friends. Maybe I thought she'd be super hot, and this would be cool and adventurous. It's dumb now thinking about it. I grabbed a hoodie, left my house quietly because my parents were sleeping, and started walking. It wasn't too far, like a 10-minute walk from where I live, but the whole way there I kept thinking I should just go back. Everything outside felt dead and silent. Most people are home at that time, windows lit up but roads empty. I could see the big metal gate of the cemetery from the end of the street, and that's when I realized there weren't any lights in there at all, just darkness. I used my phone torch, but it barely helped. The cemetery was bigger than I thought. Tall trees around it blocked the street lights, and the gate was slightly open like someone went in and just left it like that. I stepped inside and instantly felt stupid. I waited by the entrance and texted her saying I was here. She told me to walk deeper in, near the older gravestones. I could feel the cold air hitting me differently the more I stepped forward. Everything smelled like wet grass and rotten leaves. I tried to joke with myself in my head like this is just a girl trying to be edgy. Don't freak out. It's fine. I kept calling her name quietly, but she didn't reply. I thought maybe she would jump out from behind the stone as a prank. I didn't even know what she fully looked like other than the pictures. Then I saw someone crouched down near a grave with a small lantern on the ground next to them. It was definitely her. Same black hair, same outfit she was wearing in one of the pictures. I walked over slowly because she didn't notice me yet. I thought maybe she was waiting to scare me or something. I said hey, and she turned her head fast like I interrupted something important. Her hands were dirty, like actually covered in mud, and the grave she was crouched next to looked freshly dug up. I didn't know much about cemeteries, but that dirt looked like it had been disturbed recently. She had a little shovel, and she wasn't even trying to hide what she was doing. She whispered some excuse about helping maintain old graves because the workers ignored them. Even though it didn't seem like maintenance, more like she was trying to open it up. I laughed nervously because I couldn't think of anything else to do. I asked what the plan was like I was still joking around. She ignored me and kept digging. I started realizing how wrong everything felt. Why would someone be digging up a grave at night? And why did she want a stranger there to see it? I kept my phone out ready to call someone just because the whole situation was starting to freak me out. I took a step back and she told me not to go yet in this flat, serious voice. She didn't sound excited or playful anymore, just focused. I looked around to see if anyone else was there. That's when I heard the sound of tires crunching gravel near the entrance. Blue and red lights reflected off the stone surfaces, bouncing around everywhere. I instantly panicked, thinking the police would think I was helping her. I looked back at her and she froze like she already knew who was coming. She didn't even attempt to run at first. She stared at the lights like they were something she'd been expecting for ages but was hoping wouldn't happen tonight. The police rushed in yelling stuff, but I couldn't even process what they were shouting. Two officers grabbed her while another pointed a torch and started checking the hole she made. One of them came up to me asking about my involvement, but I just kept telling them I came here because she asked and I had no clue what she was doing. They separated us immediately. I kept hearing her complaining that she wasn't hurting anyone, that the people down there didn't need their rings or necklaces anymore. She said they were going to waste underground and she was just collecting what wasn't being used. That line made my stomach twist. She wasn't helping anyone. She was trying to break into a coffin, stealing from dead people, while I was standing there like the biggest idiot in the world, thinking I was about to have some mysterious midnight date. I watched as the officers pulled a small bag from her pocket. It had jewelry in it, like old jewelry, dusty rings, and a gold chain, and she looked proud, not even scared. More annoyed that she got caught before she finished. The officers kept asking questions and writing stuff down, and the whole time I stayed silent because I felt like if I talked too much they'd think I knew her better than I did. One officer eventually walked me to the gate and told me to go home. No warning, no paperwork. He told me never follow someone into a cemetery again, especially someone I just matched with. He didn't even sound like he was being funny. He was dead serious. I turned around one last time and saw her staring straight at me while they put her in the back of the car. Blank face, like I ruined her night. Walking home was way worse than walking there. I felt sick. My heart wouldn't calm down. My hands were shaking even though I was trying to act like I didn't care. I kept thinking about how if the police showed up like 30 minutes later, she would have already opened that coffin. And I would have been right there watching some dead person's jewelry getting snatched, or worse. I don't even want to think what else she wanted from down there. When I got home, I deleted Tinder straight away. I laid in my bed staring at the ceiling trying to understand how I even ended up there. Imagine telling someone I went on a date to a cemetery and she got arrested for stealing from graves. No one's going to believe that came from a real app, but it did, and I still remember her dirty hands and that look she gave me like I messed everything up.